Well, we made it to another Sunday Friday. Hi, everybody. It's Joe Chaffee and Joe Rayo on.
The Joe and Joe Show. And Joe, it's
Yes.
Friday, but you know what? For
What?
the last 6 weeks, every day's been a Friday.
I know. It's just it goes on and on and on.
On,
Although I
on.
was telling you off camera here, I had my first slice of pizza in about 6 months, and it was
Right,
so good. Uh, I we used to get it every other week when we worked together.
right.
Uh, and I just I having pizza when my kids growing up, everything was a pizza party. So I just got sick of it and went through long stretches of not having it. It's been a good 6 months since I had my last slice, and it was a sausage and cheese pizza, and it was so good. Meanwhile, it broke out here bright and I didn't have any showers here at all. Although there were some showers and thunderstorms along the New Jersey coast, and I think there were a few showers up in the Hudson Valley today. I broke out wide open in sunshine by 1 or 2 o'clock this afternoon, and it's been almost cloud free much of the late afternoon and evening.
Well, we had drizzle this morning. Along about 3 o'clock, we had a little burst of rain because there was a locally localized shower, or maybe even a thunderstorm. I didn't hear any thunder though, that passed to our north and to our east. And then, just like you, we broke out wide open into beautiful blue skies, big puffy fair weather clouds, and that's how it is out there right now. And it looks like it's going to be a nice clear night and a beautiful Saturday, I think, coming up.
Yes, I think so. I agree with you. The weather tomorrow looks fairly uncomplicated with sunshine. If we wind up with a good deal of sunshine through much of the day, I think we'll see 70-degree readings in a lot of places, even by me. What are you banging at? What are you doing? What are you up to?
What? Just,
You're doing something there. It looks nefarious. What are you doing?
there's nothing that's nefarious. I'm
Oh,
just,
geez, put that away. Put those candy things away for God's sake. Oh, stop. They're probably as old as you are.
they still taste good though. We came
Yes.
across these. I don't know where my wife came across these, but I found them in the candy dish on the coffee table upstairs, and I said, "Oh, I'll try one while I'm on here."
Well, you're gonna get us in trouble with the FCC.
What with this?
I'm just kidding.
Ah, anyway,
Um, I
anyway.
just invited everybody. Welcome to those of you who are watching live from the Meteorologist Joe Chaffee free weather app. And if you are watching at home and or from your phone and you don't have the Meteorologist Joe Chaffee weather app, you can download that by going to Google Play or the App Store, and it's absolutely free. Joe's life is dictated by my notifications that I send out, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Well, I might say I want to give a little round of applause to our dear friend Lonnie Quinn, who mentioned on his 6 o'clock weathercast the fact that in 59 years, Joe, from today, New York City will have a chance to see a total eclipse of the sun, the first since 1925. And for all of you out there who are planning to be in the vicinity 59 years from now, hopefully the weather will be a lot nicer than it was this morning, because this morning, if the eclipse had occurred, we wouldn't have seen it because it was just a drab, dreary, drizzly morning out there.
I'll be 120
I'll
in
be
50.
120. I'll be 123, and I said I have no illusions to the fact that I'm going to be around for this event. I'll give it a good college try. It's something to shoot for, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
For me, there is. Ah,
Hold on, I'm just getting everybody from getting everybody on Facebook on here. Okay, come on. Uh,
by the way, if you're interested, May 1st, 2079 is a Monday, so to kick off your week.
well, now that we're in May, a couple of things that'll be going on. It'll be interesting to see. Uh, uh, it'll be interesting to see whether we wind up with another early season tropical depression or tropical storm. uh, we've gotten, I think, 4 out of the last 5 Mays or 5 out of the last 6 Mays, something like that. We've had a named system during the month of May. So it'll be interesting to see if this will be a repeat performance this year. A lot of people, a lot of people have been asking me about that. Noticed, the Gulf water temperatures are running above normal, or at least they were. I haven't checked them recently, and the same for the Atlantic. And the La Nina, it looks like it may be starting to develop. So we'll see how that all plays.
Yes, we will, won't we?
Well,
I
here
I ate my cigarette by the way.
you're out of control. You really are. Okay,
Friday.
it
It's a
is. I understand that. So let's talk about last night's weather system because you know, we keep going. We've been in and out of these stretches where we get these weather systems that wind up either performing in line or outperforming. This one, in some places, kind of performed in line, yet in other places, it wound up performing less than advertised. For example, I just pulled up. Now this is off the Doppler, but I was looking at some of the rainfall totals, and in uh, Maryland, from Baltimore to about Westminster, up to York and Harrisburg, Lancaster, a very large area that got 3 to 4 inches of rain yesterday. And in the green, in the lightest green, that's the where the 1 inch rain amounts are. And this is the Mount Holly storm total off the Doppler. But across the state of New Jersey, I mean, there were some patches of 1 inch plus rains, and then also along the New Jersey shore. That includes some of the thunderstorms they had today. But a lot of the areas inland wound up getting more along the lines of about a half an inch, or even in some cases less than that. It was not a solid rain performer in my view in terms of what was advertised. What it did get right was that the rain was going to be less as you went east. Now, if you look at Upton's storm total radar, it's a giant donut. Okay,
right, right.
and Long Island, while it did rain last night, I mean, we did have some heavy downpours that went through. There were some long gaps where it really didn't do much of anything. And in fact, most of the rainfall amounts were under a half an inch, and in some cases, even under a quarter of an inch. So that was again, it's just this giant hole. And yet, when you look around Long Island, then you start to see the heavier amounts. And by the way, you got to be a little careful here because off this Doppler is. I'm just checking. It just occurred to me. I should check the time. This Doppler is 20 is from today. So actually, this doesn't even include any of the rain that fell from last night. So this is probably not a good thing to look at. I looked at the rainfall amounts that were measured from the Weather Service office that they put out in their statement, and they were basically on the order of about a half an inch to an inch. You did okay up there. I saw some inch and a half plus amounts in a few places. Orange County, for example, and a few other places up in the Hudson Valley that did fairly well with this.
Yeah, I didn't check recently what I had in my rain gauge, but I know as of last night, the first round, we had something on the order of about a half an inch, and then as I said, we that was actually the night before, and then we also had more rain last night, I think over an inch to add on to that. So yeah, we did pretty good. And again, this morning it was just kind of a drizzly type of morning out there, and then we had again one brief shower about 3 o'clock this afternoon. Then we just burst right open into clear sky and sunshine. A lot faster than I thought we would, but
Yeah,
we've got it now.
I,
So
I, I brought the Upton storm total radar. I just realized. So the precip estimate, actually, what you're seeing here is from this afternoon. So my apologies there. I just, I didn't see the timestamp here. So this is from what happened this afternoon. So actually, from this afternoon's rainfall, a lot of areas did wind up with about a half an inch. You add that to the totals from late yesterday, and that's what the Weather Service came up with regards to some of the final totals. Still an underperformer. And then I just went up to Boston on their radar. And we're looking. This is from 6:14 p.m. yesterday to 7:04 p.m. today. And even here, I mean, rainfall amounts. The lighter greens were generally the first shading of green is a half an inch, and you have to go to a small patch up in north central Massachusetts, north of Springfield, and there you wind up with a few places that got about an inch, maybe an inch and a half, that little yellow dot. So it was what it was. The ground was pretty saturated. Some places got, some vulnerable spots flooded out, but that was just about it. And now we're transitioning over to the weekend. One thing I just want to point out that in terms of the temperatures, and these are the 7 o'clock numbers, but I looked at this an hour ago. Uh, Even though some areas got more sunshine than others, we saw temperatures that climbed up well into the 60s in some places. So that bodes well for tomorrow, because with sunshine tomorrow, we're probably not going to go down very far tonight. And that should set up a fairly good launching pad for taking temperatures up. But finally, where some areas will get to the 70-degree mark.
And Joe, it looks like we're going to indeed hit 70 in many areas tomorrow, something that Central Park was unable to do all of through the month of April. And not only that, we may actually put together back-to-back 70-degree days, because I think on Sunday, in spite of the fact that we're going to have quite a bit of cloud cover, especially early in the day, we should break out into some sun. And I think on Sunday we may even see temperatures a degree or two milder than what we're going to be seeing tomorrow. But tomorrow, definitely the better of the two days in terms of overall conditions, more in the way of sunshine, brighter skies. And interestingly, we've got showers in the forecast for the weekend, but they come for tomorrow night after midnight. Hopefully, they'll be out of here by Sunday morning. And
Yeah.
then a bit around of showers coming our way for Sunday evening. But again, hopefully, all of the wet stuff stays out of the picture until after we enjoy a couple of dry days tomorrow and on Sunday during the daylight hours.
Much of the U.S. is actually very quiet tonight. There's very little in the way of significant watches and warnings, other than some red flag warnings in southern New Mexico and parts of Colorado. Some odd, some odd flood advisories in parts of Montana, northwestern Colorado, northeast Nevada. A few patchy areas where they've got some wind advisories up. But other than that, we're getting a break here. The Storm Prediction Center on their outlooks not showing really all that much with regards to thunderstorm activity for tonight into tomorrow. For tonight into tomorrow morning, we have just couple of small areas of marginal risk in the Rockies and the Central Rockies and up in northwest Texas. And of course, what's left of the risk for just general thunderstorms, and we've seen that play out in our neck of the woods. The outlook for tomorrow shows a small area of marginal risk from eastern Indiana to a small portion of northwestern Pennsylvania, and it cuts right across a good chunk of the state of Ohio. Another small area of marginal risk, Colorado and Kansas, and yet a third area of marginal risk up in Oregon and southern Washington and on Washington State. And for Sunday, there's no severe weather risk being indicated across much of the U.S., just some general thunderstorm activity with the next weather system that's going to be uh, by here, moving by here on Sunday, but really not showing very much. The only other thing I'll give a heads up on is the day 4 to 8 outlook. The day 4 outlook does have a 15% risk in southern Missouri, northern Arkansas, eastern Kansas, northeastern Oklahoma. So we know it's on the day 4. When it shows up on day 4 to day 8 in that 4-day forecast, if they've got something there, it's probably something to pay attention to. And they have predictability too low for the day 5, 6, 7, and 8 time frame.
And everything is moving very rapidly too. I mean, we've got a chance for a bit of wet weather here after midnight tomorrow night. We have another chance of wet weather for the first part of the night on Sunday, and then Joe, it looks like if everything holds together from what I could see here, after Sunday evening, the next chance of getting wet may not come here until later next Friday or Friday night. We may have a dry, albeit rather progressively cooler week coming up next week.
Yep. Pattern's not really changing very much. So we still got more work to do. There's still uh, high latitude blocking going on, and that's keeping the jet stream active in Canada and driving it down into the northeast. You can see on the satellite loop tonight that we've got our storm system in upper low. The rotation of the upper low is still pretty obvious when you look at the clouds turning counterclockwise, but that low is starting to move to the east. We also have the drier air that's out over parts of the Great Lakes and covering the Gulf states. There's a little disturbance that's moving across the western lakes with some high clouds. I think much of that cloud cover will probably go by to our north, although I wouldn't be at all shocked if some of the southern end of that cloud line winds up sneaking in. I don't think it takes much away from our day on Saturday. And then
No.
looking out to the west, there's energy off the Pacific Northwest coast that's starting to come inland, and that's going to start sending ripples running across the U.S. That we're going to deal with next week.
Yeah, I think tomorrow we'll probably have sunshine in the early part of the day. The clouds that do come in will be indeed that high stuff that you just mentioned, but it will merely veil or soften the sunshine up a little bit. And then we'll see the thicker clouds arrive probably around or soon after sunset tomorrow night, eventually leading into a few hours of showery weather with the next cold front. It's a pair of cold fronts, actually. The first one coming through tomorrow night, late into, actually, it's two fronts. We have a warm front first, and then a cold front moves through early Sunday morning, and then there's a second cold front bringing more showers our way Sunday evening. But hopefully, we'll be able to clear out of the first line of showers first thing Sunday morning, have most of Sunday dry and mild, and then we'll get the next cold front Sunday evening with some showers. And then after that, as I said, a gradual progression to cooler, drier, and actually chillier air. In fact, Joe, I don't know what you think, but I think Monday we could have some, I don't think worth a wind advisory, but we could have some rather gusty northwesterly winds here behind that second cold front on
Yeah,
Monday.
I mentioned that Monday will probably have some wind, especially for the first part of the day. I agree with that. I got no issue with that. Radar's got some scattered showers and storms this evening as of 7:20 p.m. In central New England, and of course, Royce mentioned there have been a few storms right along the New Jersey shore. They're kind of hanging there and only moving very, very slowly. Seeing some pop-ups in parts of Pennsylvania. Out to the west, we've got a little arc of showers running across the western lakes, and that's with that weather system that we just mentioned with the clouds. A little bit of action back in the Colorado and Wyoming, into Colorado, Wyoming, and parts of Utah, and then the energy that's off the Pacific Northwest coast beginning to move inland. Just waiting for the surface law. I got the 18Z plot. See if the 21Z plot is in. Usually is in by now, but apparently oh, there it is. So our low is roughly at about 39 and about 70, moving out to the east very slowly. We have last night's weather front analyzed well offshore. There's another weak front that's being analyzed in upstate New York and cutting across central PA. That is going to move southeast. There really isn't too much with it. There were some of those upstate New York showers you saw probably associated with that weak frontal boundary. And then you've got a weak high down in Alabama that's necked up all the way to southern Michigan. So that's our air mass for tomorrow. And then as we look up in the plains, you've got this next weather front with a low in Minnesota that sort of stakes back down into northern Colorado and down into the southwest. So we're just kind of looking at there's nothing major here. No major storms to deal with. No major short waves, and that bodes well for keeping severe weather out of the way, which SPC has indicated. So that idea that the weekend is going to be a relatively quiet one seems to be supported by everything we're seeing so far.
Yes, indeed. And I don't know about you. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. And I know a lot of people who have been pent up in their homes are looking forward to it. And this might be a case where I may be wrong, but perhaps on Sunday we're going to hear from both the governor and also the mayor of New York, um, telling us, I know it's a beautiful day, but I didn't like to see so many of you out there, and wasn't enough social distancing or whatever. I mean, it's going to be that kind of a day tomorrow.
It's, yeah, I went out on my 8 mile walk today, and it's nice because uh, where I walk through the neighborhood I walk in, there's some. It's a the homes there are very expensive, so those people never come out. So you never see anyone. You know, I keep hoping that I'm going to someday see a woman taking out the trash in a house dress, but that's just not happening. You just don't see anybody. It's very, very quiet. Hardly any cars go by. So, I go back in there. I run in. I think maybe today I passed a biker and three other people that were walking on the opposite side of the street. So I just mind my own business. I say hello. I did my 8 miles, and I'm a happy camper. By the way, I got the HREF model showing the upper air. We got the upper low, this afternoon in Northern Virginia from earlier. But of course, the key to our forecast this weekend is to get that trough to move offshore, which is it's doing because you've got this next short wave right behind it. But this is a weak short wave, the one that's in the plains, that this is at 2 a.m. Saturday morning, and that just kind of moves its way eastward. Now we're into Saturday night into early Sunday morning, and this is where, Joe, you're talking about the chance that we could see, maybe a shower or two Saturday night, and then we're just going to have to wait for this whole shortwave trough to kind of play itself through here uh, later Sunday and Sunday night. So I think we're going to be, like you said, we'll probably have clouds early, break out into some sun, temperatures up in the 70s. Another weather front comes through Sunday night with maybe a couple of showers, or maybe even a rumble or two of thunder. Who knows? And then after that, it should turn dry, and it's going to be below normal temperature wise for Monday and Tuesday for much of next week, but particularly for Monday and Tuesday, which should be dry days because the energy that's back in the Pacific Northwest on Sunday, it's going to take a little while for it to move across, but it is right behind it. So you kind of see this is still at this bowling alley pattern we have with one trough moving out, next short wave moving in, and then a third short wave right behind it. So a lot of traffic here in the jet stream across the United States. Very busy.
Well, we'll be spoiled this weekend. I think a couple of days at or above 70. And as you mentioned, Joe, once that second front moves through, temperatures are going to drop at least 10 or more degrees between Sunday and Monday, along with the gusty wind will probably make it feel chillier. And it will be a week where temperatures will be rather cool for this time of the year. So take advantage of the next couple of days because we're going back into that unseasonable pattern of chillier air again next week.
Yeah, when you look at the upper air into next week, what's really evident is how active and how strong the jet stream pattern is set up from northwest Canada right into the northeast. And there's actually a bit of a split flow here with a southern Pacific jet that's active and sending ripples along as well. So this pretty much has been the story for weeks now, and we don't see much changing here. I mean, just going through next week and toward the end of next week, there's actually a deep trough in the eastern part of the United States that comes down next weekend. There's a vortex, Joe, on the new GFS south of James Bay. I can't see. I got to get tighter, but it's an upper air that a winter weather lover would just dreams of. In terms of this, at least in terms of bringing cold air down. This time of year, it's a little different, of course, because cold air means you still wind up with highs in the 60s, but it's a very, very cold looking uh, upper air. What is the? I'm trying to see what the height is. That's 510. That's a 519. Five. I think that's a 516 height with an upper low south of James Bay and below normal heights throughout much of the Northeast and all the way down into northern Florida. You've got below normal heights. When you see all that blue, okay, that's your key. Below average, that's all cold. I mean, that's cold air aloft, but certainly going to be reflected to a certain extent down at sea level.
It's you could see why I say that on Monday that we may very well have to deal with. I don't think it's going to be advisory criteria type winds, but the winds are certainly going to be busy out of the northwest behind this whole mass of or push of much chillier air. I don't think that it's going to be windy all week. May still be rather brisk though on Tuesday, maybe even Wednesday as well.
I'm running this jet for the next 16 days. I mean, other than the odd day, look, the average high, but it's when you get to around May 10th or 11th, the average high is up to 70. So, if you're 4 or 5 degrees below normal, it still says at least you get up into the mid 60s by day. But that the upper air itself is just so cold looking when you move it right through the next 2 weeks. You get the odd day probably in between short waves where it may try to warm up a bit, but you're going to be followed by cold front after cold front. And I will say this, as we get deeper into the month of May, if we're still dealing with this really cold flow coming down from Canada, it is going to eventually increase the probability of thunderstorms and weather and cold fronts that are going to produce severe thunderstorms in the Northeast and Mid Atlantic states if this pattern holds. I mean, eventually, it's going to break clearly, but if we keep having to deal with this very active northern part of the jet stream with these cold pools of air coming down in a warming, an overall warming springtime month of May, that's those are set that those that's where you get setups for severe weather in the Northeast and Mid Atlantic states.
We'll see. By the way, our old friend Dennis Cassia, I don't believe is online. He
I
just sent
saw him
me a
earlier. He was talking about his sodium levels.
well. He just sent me a message on Messenger here that, and if any of you are Met fans, you may find this of interest. WFAN here in New York, 660, is currently at this moment running Game Two of the 1969 World
Oh,
Series.
good lord.
So, so if you had enough of weather and you want baseball, you can tune into WFAN and hear a baseball game that's over 50 years old. Oh,
Oh God.
and if over 50 years old, we know what happened because that was the 69 Miracle Met team or whatever. And yet I'm sure if they're running that game, they must have sold spots. I mean, like they must
Oh,
have sponsors for that game, I'll bet.
oh, clearly they
Yeah.
clearly sold spots. Of course, when it comes to social distancing, the Mets will be a perfect example since under normal conditions they don't get many people at their games anyway.
Uh,
I'm sorry I had to do that.
yes, I know, Yankee fan that you are.
Okay, so let's roll along here, and of course, as
I
you,
still haven't forgotten that picture of your grandson in a little Met uniform and Met cap, and you made a comment like, "We must do something
I'm going to
about."
have to do an intervention. Well, that's my son-in-law is a big Met. My son-in-law is a big Met fan,
Yeah,
and his whole family are they're Met fans. I don't. I'm not as big on baseball as I used to be. But
okay,
no matter. There's no baseball going on now anyway, except in reruns.
that's
So
true.
here's your Saturday night little system that goes through. You can see the showers that arc around that low near James Bay. There's nothing really overly developed here. And even the showers that go back out through the Ohio Valley and into the Central Plains, not really amounting to too much. Then we get this little ripple with the front with some showers and maybe a couple of storms that roll across the mid West Virginia into Pennsylvania, New Jersey, maybe coming up briefly during Sunday night. And as you said, the gradient Monday looks tight at least into the afternoon, so it will be on the breezy side, but dry. Tuesday looks dry, and of course now here comes. We talked about the system that's going to be rolling into the Pacific Northwest. This is going to be the next low in that in Minnesota to Wisconsin that's going to probably set up a low that'll try to develop off the Delaware coast, high to the northeast, onshore flow, clouds and rain for later Tuesday night into Wednesday night, and then after that, perhaps some improvement toward the end of the week before next weekend arrives with that cold front and this cold pool of air, maybe some showers and storms to usher it in Friday night before we turn dry but chilly for next weekend. So pretty uneventful though overall.
Now you're running the 18Z. I think the 12Z had that Wednesday system a little further to the south. We
Yeah,
somehow
let's take a look just for laughs. Let's look at the European. Um, Because the European has been pretty consistent in trying to take weather systems to our south on a routine basis here. So this is, let me get it to, all right, so here we are on the weekend. So here's Sunday. We also have to be careful because the European has been trying to wrap up lows off the East Coast that show nor'easters lately, and that hasn't been the case. So Monday, you've got the high building in, your tight gradient. Tuesday, there's a low in eastern Tennessee. There's also a low up in North Dakota. You've got a high up in James Bay. You get the onshore flow that sets up. The European is much flatter and further south. That doesn't mean it's right, but it gives the idea that the upper trough is probably just going to squash this more than anything else. We'll see. And then toward the end of next week, it's got another low in cold front on Friday. That by Saturday morning, you have a 95 low near Cape Cod. You've got a strong northerly flow with the isobars running north-south from eastern Canada down to North Carolina. 1030 high in northern Illinois. And that starts to move. It looks like a chilly weekend next weekend on the European as well.
Yes, I think that'll be, as I said at the onset here, I think that if we miss out on that Wednesday system, then our next best chance after the showers on Sunday evening, the next best chance of getting wet here probably will not be until maybe Friday night or Saturday of next week. So a nice stretch of dry weather, and we certainly could use it. Now, if we could just get the dry to coincide with the unseasonable warmth, that would be great. But unfortunately, while it'll be nice and mild this weekend, as we've been talking about, we're going to trend back to the same old story of unseasonably chilly conditions as we progress through most of next week.
Well, we're going into spring. Australia is going into mid autumn, and we showed this the other day about this Antarctic air mass, these Antarctic air masses that are coming in from south to north. And I just wanted to just kind of do a little quick update here. Uh, all of By next Friday, all of the continent is below to well below normal, and then while it moderates, there's another cold air mass that comes in later in the period that sweeps in from Antarctica and pushes northward. I'm still not quite used to having to look at this in the opposite to see the cold air come up from the south
Right.
rather than seeing it drop by from the north, because we don't really look at the southern hemisphere very often. I did, Joe, bring up, since I mentioned it at the beginning, I thought I'd bring it up, the sea surface temperature anomalies. And this is as of April 25th, so it's from 5 days ago. But the much of the Atlantic is either near or slightly above normal water temperature wise, not by a lot, but mostly 0 to 1 degree above Celsius above normal. The Gulf of Mexico is running above normal. Virtually the whole Gulf of Mexico is above normal, and the area east of Florida is running above normal. But you go from the Carolinas northward to Nova Scotia, that whole area is actually running, except for a couple of warm eddies, most of that area is actually, and that includes us, running below normal, although there's a little shelf of above normal temperatures from central New Jersey down to Delaware Bay, and another small a small shelf of above normal temperatures showing up in the Gulf of Maine, which is, it's kind of interesting. I don't know who knows what's causing that. Maybe it's a leftover warm eddy that hasn't died out yet, but it's about to. And in terms of the actual temperatures, just to give you an idea, you need ocean water temperatures greater than 26 Celsius to support the tropical system, and that's pretty much confined deep in the tropical Atlantic, south of 10 degrees north. The Caribbean, the area up maybe to the southern Bahamas, the Gulf of Mexico, the southeastern Gulf of Mexico is at about 26 Celsius. The northern part of the Gulf of Mexico. I'm sorry, hold on, stop. I have to get myself into the habit of this. I assume when I look at these maps, I check the date on the other one. I just looked at the daily analysis on this. I've just realized the date on this is January 15th. So I take that back. Okay. So let me see if the 7-day analysis is right. I wasn't even going to pull up that. This map is correct. Okay, and this is from 425. I apologize for that. Um, so on this map, this is 425 2020. 28 degrees Celsius water in the tropical Atlantic south of 5 degrees north. The 26-degree line goes along 10 degrees north, and then it shoots up to about 25 degrees north in the southwest Atlantic, north of the Bahamas to the Florida coast. The water temperatures, those anomalies I showed you are correct, and of course they cool off as you go north up the east coast. And the Gulf of Mexico waters, um, I would say half the Gulf of Mexico ocean water temperatures are at or above 26 degrees Celsius, which would be supportive for tropical storm development. So we'll see. I mean, that's only one of a dozen ingredients that you look at, but I just thought it'd be nice to take a quick peek here. Now that we're 2 weeks, we're 15 days away, 14 days away from the start of the hurricane season in the Pacific, in the East Pacific. That season starts 15 days
Atlantic.
before the Atlantic.
Now, wasn't it
So
about was it about 2, 3 years ago we were talking about how the waters were so incredibly chilly, and maybe this would preclude
one
active season. And what happened? It was quiet for a while, and all of a sudden we got to, I think, September, and everything blew up.
August, late August in that year, it blew up. That was, I don't know. I know the year. It does sound familiar. I'm not sure if it was 17 or in 18 where that happened, but um, you have to be really careful when it comes to looking at water temperatures because while they don't change much, you get one big Atlantic Ocean storm, non-tropical, that does a little upwelling, and you can look at it one day and it's all above normal, and then you look at it after the storm goes by and it's all below normal. So you got to be a little bit careful using water temperatures um,
Criteria.
as a criteria if you're trying to do a long range forecast, which is not what we're trying to do here. We're just sort of showing you what it looks like.
It's kind of like the wintertime version when we start looking in September and October at Siberian snow cover.
Right,
Uh,
exactly. It's only one of many things, and it's one of those, it hasn't worked in the last several years. It worked for a number of years in a row, and then everybody started paying attention to it. And of course, what usually happens when you have an indicator that's got a lot of variability and once it gets, it's like a conspiracy in a way. Once everybody starts using it, it stops working
right.
because that's nature's way of making you look as ridiculous as possible.
Right.
So Dennis Cassia is on the board right now. He just said no comment. So I don't know if he was referring to you or if he's referring to somebody else. Also, I can't see, but because my chat is updating right now, catching up to everybody's comments. But someone did hit super chat tonight. So whoever that someone is, thank you so much for doing that. Joe and I really appreciate it.
That
Okay.
person was Mac Attack.
Mac Attack, thank you very much. Most appreciated. So,
Enjoy a Friday evening cigar or a Candy King for Rayo.
yes. Oh, good lord. So let's do a little Briller Jeopardy. I actually have a Briller Jeopardy question answer. I have uh, a Kirby Jeopardy question. Everybody is getting into the
And I've got a Veltman Jeopardy.
well, and I have one of my own for you. So, um, let's see. I'm running back. Okay, so starting with Scott Briller, what was the last U.S. show to have its entire run in black and white?
Oh, the entire run in
The
black and
entire
white.
run in black and white.
Because there are some shows like Andy Griffith and Gomer Pyle, they transitioned from black and white to color.
Bewitched,
Bewitched,
Bonanza,
Hazel, Hazel.
Hazel.
So we have to think of a show that was on up until about 1960 or 62 or whatever. Well, Leave It to Beaver was one, wasn't it?
They stayed black and white all the way
And
through.
oh, what is the question again?
The last U.S. show to have its entire run in black and white.
Well, leave it to Beaver.
No,
They
that's not the last one.
Dennis the Menace.
No.
Well, we know I Love Lucy, but that's like too far back. Uh, Sea Hunt with Lloyd Bridges.
Nope. The Dick Van Dyke Show.
The Dick Van Dyke Show. That's right. Dick Van Dyke got all the way up to 1965,
Yes.
and you could see those reruns only once a week. That's on Sunday night at between 11 p.m. and midnight. That's right. They were on from about what 61 to 65, and
Hmm.
they ended before they had a chance to go transitioning to color. So
Okay, now, the first president to be televised.
the first president.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, well, I could say FDR because back in 1939, I know they had a TV exhibit at the New York World's Fair. But I'm going to take a shot and say uh, I'll say Calvin Coolidge.
FDR.
It was FDR.
Yes.
Okay,
And I think it was at the 1939 World's Fair in New York
that's what I
City.
said.
Yes.
That's
Oh,
what
is
I
that
said.
what you said? I'm sorry. I wasn't paying it. You know I never pay attention to what you say.
I said I said I said maybe it was FDR at the 39 World's Fair, but then I thought he's trying to trick me. Some president probably did something before 39. That's why I said Calvin Coolidge and or J. Edgar, oh, not J. Edgar Hoover, Herbert Hoover. But yeah, all right. So that's interesting.
Okay, so now let's go to uh, Daniel Kirby's Johnny Quest's question,
Okay.
and that is the highest wind speed ever recorded in New York City, and what caused it.
Um, I'm not sure if it's the same for Newark as it is for Central Park, because I think Newark, New Jersey hit 107 mile per hour during Hurricane Donna in 1960. But I'm not sure whether or not New York City is on the same level as that. So that would be my answer. Hurricane Donna, 10
54 October Hurricane Hazel.
Hazel. We
Yes,
just mentioned Hazel.
yes. Now he said, Johnny Quest, you said 124 miles an hour in
Oh,
a
that's
in
impossible.
a one wind gust. I think it was 106 or 109, if I remember correctly.
Holy
Yeah,
mackerel.
I don't know about the 124 though. I think it was like 106 or 109, as I recall.
Can you imagine being in New York during Hurricane Hazel on the Empire State Building 86th floor observation deck?
No, I couldn't. That would be awful.
No. Yeah.
That was a south wind because Hazel took a track up into western Pennsylvania. The
Right. You know,
when it became an extratropical storm.
I think the Hazel was the storm that really decimated Toronto. I think
Yes.
that's a, yeah, that's one storm that really did a number on Toronto. Was Hazel in
Yes.
'54. Yeah.
Now you go ahead with your questions.
All right. This is from Timothy Beltman. He said that, and of course this is not valid anymore. But he said since Scott is having a movie night with his mother, he shows you how long ago he sent me the question.
That was last night that Scott had the movie night with his mother.
We
They watched
decided.
All About Eve, which was
Okay,
my
so we
recommendation.
the tables on Joe, and have me send you a couple of Jeopardy questions this week. Category: animated cartoon. Part one. Answer: The Flintstones had this many different addresses during the run of the animated series. So, in other words, they had how many different addresses in that?
You know what? I honestly, that's probably one of the things that I should have been paying attention to while I was in school, but wasn't. So I will say three.
Good for you. You nailed it.
Really? It was a,
Yes.
and that was an absolute total guess. The number three popped into my head from the as soon as you finished asking the question, and for some reason I said, you know what, I'm just going to stick with what my I guess there's something back here that maybe is still has all that useless information recorded.
222 Rocky Way,
Right.
345 Stone Cave Road,
Okay.
and the official final address of 301 Cobblestone Way,
That one I
all,
remember.
all in Bedrock. Did you know that Bedrock had a zip code? 70 777.
I wonder if that's a real zip code.
And that's part two of the question. If you send a letter to any of these addresses, it would result in being delivered to a town in this state. If you use the 777.
70, hold on. 7077. Let's see, California, Chicago, Illinois, 60609. So we know it's not Illinois. So I'm going to say, you know what? I'll say California. That would, but I'm thinking it's not.
And the question is, what is Louisiana?
Oh, I should have known that. I lived in Louisiana. I couldn't remember my zip code.
And the zip code of
All right,
seven.
it's 7006. Yes. I should have had that. That
You
is a
should add that.
yeah, because I
70.
actually send something every month to I still have a small place in outside New Orleans, and I have to mail a small check in every month, and because it's empty. Okay, but anyway, yeah, the zip code is 700. So I should have realized that was a Louisiana one. I could have gotten them both right. Oh
And
well.
the zip code of 70777 is for the town of Slaughter, Louisiana.
Slaughter, Louisiana. I wonder why they picked that. Somebody, maybe one of the writers or one of the animators or producers, that maybe that's his hometown.
Maybe.
That was because in a lot of shows you get those little things that they stick there. And I Love Lucy. A lot of the names of the of characters that you didn't really see very much of. Like her girlfriends, she used names of people that she actually grew up with.
Now here's just popped into my head. Where do the Stevensons live? Darren and Samantha Stevens.
They're outside New York City.
Right.
Okay.
It is
Um,
it is Elizabeth Montgomery's hometown,
yeah,
and it has
it's the address is. I know what the address is.
I don't want the address. I'll just want the town.
No, but I know like the road address and.
And I'll give you a hint. The name of this town. There's another town with the same name in New Jersey.
Well, I mean, I know there's a Farmingdale, New Jersey, and a Farmingdale, Long Island.
Right.
So but I know it wasn't Farmingdale.
All right.
They lived on Morning Glory Circle.
One more. One
Okay,
more.
the street was Morning Glory Circle.
Okay. One more hint. It's in the lower Hudson Valley.
Well, that narrows it down. Every street corner is a town in the lower a new town in the lower Hudson Valley. Oh God.
Man, that's a pretty sunset.
North of White Plains and south of Poughkeepsie.
North of White Plains, and I believe
So
yes, south of
north of 287, south of Route 84.
somewhere in that corridor. Yeah. Well, I'm not sure. It may actually be a little north of 84, but
Well, it's not Peekskill.
I mean, no. Well, Peekskill's south of 84, but the when I
Well, we
found
know
out.
it's not Montgomery, New York.
Hmm?
We know it's not Montgomery, New York.
No, it's not Montgomery for Elizabeth Montgomery.
Right,
No.
no. I give up.
I heard about the first time I heard about this. I said, "My God, what a trip Darren has to make into the city every day." Patterson.
Patterson, New York, and Patterson, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Jason Barry wants to know what planet is Gazoo from?
What planet is what? Is Gazoo?
Gazoo.
That's a good question. I think he does mention it in the very first episode that he appears. Um,
And wasn't he sent down to Earth as kind of like a punishment?
Punishment,
Yeah.
right?
And we know Harvey Korman did the voice. And actually, there was a Perry Mason episode last week that I caught that Harvey Korman was in. He played a bartender. It was a small role, but he played a bartender.
He said I had it up actually a couple of months ago. An interview about him doing the Great Gazoo, and he said the interesting thing is, he said I didn't appear in every episode. I was hardly in the show. I only appeared in like 12 or 14 episodes, and yet it was an immensely popular character. and he appeared at like one of these like comic festivals or whatever, and people were asking him to sign pictures of the
Yeah.
Great Gazoo. Uh,
William Hoover wants to know where I had pizza tonight. We picked it up at Branchinelli's, which I think there's a couple of them on Long Island. Very good. I was very impressed by it. I think that's the word I would use. Impressed by
well,
the pizza at Branchinelli's.
you heard about Super Moon. Joe was bragging to me. He said this was like a super pizza.
It
It's a
really
big,
was. It was very good.
yeah.
It was very good. All right, so I know what I wanted. This was mine. So this was my question. So on Leave It to Beaver, okay, Leave It to Beaver. Now we had the characters on Leave It to Beaver. We had Lumpy, we had Eddie Haskell, and of course we had Wally and the Beaver and Mr. and Mrs. Cleaver. My question is, what was the name of the show's hairdresser?
They had a hairdresser.
Oh, of course they did. They had
Really?
makeup and hair, for God's sake. You can't live without makeup and hair. And you know that. We worked on television. I mean,
uh,
it was one of the stuff. So there's no, there's no way on God's earth. I just did that just to, I wanted to
wait.
get your reaction over the question.
I mean, I was waiting for the color episode of Perry Mason this morning and ran into Leave It to Beaver at the end, and I was watching how the credits were coming across the screen. I didn't know.
She's actually the last credit that's on the list before they come up with that the logos and the production company. It's Florence Bush.
Florence Bush.
Yes, not that you should know who Florence Bush is. Just I just saw that and I said I'm going to use that to Rayo just to get a reaction from him.
What would you have said if I had said just arbitrarily boom Florence
No,
Bush?
yeah, it would have been funny if you had got it. I will check out Rubino's on Sylvan Avenue. That's next on the list. There's one pizza place at a time, and I may wait a few months before I do that. So, but yeah, it was good, and a few other people have told me that Rubino's has very good pizza as well. So tomorrow is Saturday, and it's going to be a nice day. And we usually don't do live streams on Saturdays. And given that the weather is going to be a non-event tomorrow, I think we won't do a live stream tomorrow, but we will do our Sunday morning show at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, the Joe and Joe Weather Show on Sundays. Coffee with Chaffee and Rayo. So
Yeah,
grab your morning beverage, whatever it happens to be, and join us at
I
11 o'clock on Sunday morning.
I must tell you one of the reasons why we're doing it because you used to do it at 10:30, and I said can we push it to 11 because I like to watch CBS Sunday Morning,
Right.
and now I'm getting annoyed every Sunday because it's not so much they have like the fact that we're into the coronavirus situation and it's not the same studio and it's not the same, but like the last 3 weeks at about 9:20, the show gets interrupted so that Mayor de Blasio may give his 45-minute State of the Union speech or whatever. And I miss out on like the final 3 quarters of the show I have not seen because Mayor de Blasio is telling us all about what's going on in the
Can't you
city.
watch it online?
You can watch it online. In fact, they said last week, I guess they were aware that there were people who were getting annoyed, and you can go on CBSSundayMorning.com. But you know me, Joe. I'm lazy. I mean, I'm all set in my way, sitting there watching, and now I have to get up and I have to go either over to the iPad or come down here and watch it on.
Yeah,
But I guess that's yeah. In this
I hear you.
situation,
I have my setup is down in the basement, and I have to tell you that even though it's quiet and it's private down here, no one bothers me. I actually, I'm still so used to when we worked in that room we worked in where we had 15 people at least running around at all times
right.
talking, and we had the TV sets on, four different TV sets with four different audios, and the control rooms going with all those voices. I was okay with that. I was always good at blocking stuff out and just doing what I had to do. Here, I don't have that problem, but I'm like I'm sitting here sometimes. It's like I'm all by myself. I need somebody. I need something.
Right.
I put on sometimes I'll put on something because I got the second screen here, so I'll put a TV show on and have that on while I'm doing work because I'm the other way. I gotta have noise.
I haven't heard since we left that place, and now we're coming up on what? It's now been uh, 6 months, right?
Yeah, November,
Okay.
December, January, February, March,
Yeah,
April. Coming, this will be 6 months in mid-May. Yeah.
that's why you said you haven't had a pizza 6 months because that's we had pizza night
Hmm.
every other week. But I haven't heard a single must we listen to this?
Must we listen to all this?
Yeah.
That was my signature line.
Yes.
People love me for my sarcasm, I'm sure.
And sometimes and sometimes when it was absolutely quiet, we were all doing our thing or whatever like that, and the room was quiet. All of a sudden, this guy would come out and go, doo doo.
No, do 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 do. That was the that was the sound the phone system would make.
Right,
And remember, was it on your phone that they changed it to the Jetsons?
right.
And
That
everybody, and we couldn't stand it. It's like, make it stop. Go back to the way it was.
it would go up, dun 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 dun.
Dun, dun,
Oh,
da, da.
yeah.
All right, so we'll leave it at that. It's just about 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Everybody have a great night. Thanks, everybody, for being on the chat board. Thanks, Mac Attack, for hitting Super Chat tonight. Joe and I really appreciate it greatly. And we'll see you Sunday morning at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. Bye, everybody.